and welcome to another edition of Did You Know Doctor Who, what you may not know about Doctor Who. This time we're going to have a look at the third of the trial season, The Terror of the Vervoids. I hope you enjoy. In terms of filming, this is the last one to be filmed. The story was based on Agatha Christie murder mysteries. In fact, there's an Agatha Christie novel in this story. Working title for the story was simply The Vervoids. The pitch Mel screams at in Part 9's cliffhanger was purposely made to match that of the closing theme's introductory stinger. Pip Baker got the idea of the Vervoids after reading in a scientific journal that plants have feelings. This is the first appearance of Mel Bush, and is the second time a companion's first appearance is not an introductory meeting story, the first being Susan. The Vervoids, despite only having one canonical appearance, have appeared in the stage play The Ultimate Adventure and in Dimensions in Time. Believe it or not, the Vervoids inspired future villains The Handbots from The Girl Who Waited, with its writer Tom McRae considering them the scariest enemy the Doctor faced, with the scene where the Vervoids attacked a man using deadly seed pods delivered from their hands being inspiration for the Handbots. This would be the last time in the series that Colin Baker would be seen in the TARDIS console room. Behind the scenes, things got tense between Eric Saward and John Nathan Turner, with the two arguing heavily. It was claimed that Saward purposely sabotaged Colin Baker's era with his writing and was responsible for some of the odd choices during the 80s as a whole. But at the time that it came down to the final two trial stories, the anger and resentment towards Eric Saward resulted in him resigning as script editor, meaning that from parts 9 to 12 there is no script editor during the trial of the Time Lord. In fact, it was John Nathan Turner who chose Pip and Jane Baker's script over the choice Eric Saward had in mind, which was called Paradise 5, written by Peter J. Hammond. This story would eventually become a Big Finish audiobook. Another story rejected and replaced by this one was Attack from the Mind by David Halliwell. This was set on the planet Penelope, where the beautiful but weak natives are suffering attacks from a rat-like Freds, later renamed Trikes. It transpires that the Penelopeans are intentionally driving the Freds insane using mental hallucinations and feeding off the madness. In the end, the two races destroy each other, providing new fodder for the Valyar to use against the Doctor. Quite humorously, the Vervoids' appearance proved to be problematic for John Nathan Turner, as he and many others noticed that they looked like a woman's vagina. This serial marked the last time the BBC Radiophonic Workshop provided the music score for the series. Part of the Grenville Hallett subplot was removed in editing. Quite infamously by this point, but worth mentioning, is when this story aired on the BBC show Open Air, it had a discussion with die-hard fans of the series that appeared on the programme, including future showrunner Chris Chibnall, who had negative feelings about the story and was feeling it was complicated, confusing, and badly written. I'm sorry, I can't take Chibnall seriously. And that the series had not improved since season 22. He criticised Bonnie Langford's performance and said that she needed to restrain herself. Yeah, the irony is not lost on me by those points. And that is it for today. The Chris Chibnall point at the end was, I must admit, I could not take that seriously. The fact that he called it confusing, badly written, and that Bonnie Langford had to restrain, or needed to be restrained because of her performance, it's just so ironic considering how poorly written, how bad of a showrunner Chibnall was, or is, I should say, depending on when this video gets released, and how, Jodie Whittaker needed to be restrained quite a bit. My god, but we should actually talk about Terror of the Vervoids, and what is my thoughts on this particular serial. Now, this particular serial, in my opinion, and is in the opinion of quite a few others, is probably the best of the trial season, and by a long shot. Terror of the Vervoids is more quintessential Doctor Who, and I think the Vervoids themselves are a really interesting villain for this story, even if they do look like a bunch of walking vaginas. And my god, Terror of the Vervoids, I don't know, it just feels more like a classical Doctor Who story. You know, they're trapped on a ship, they have all these dangers, there's a traitor on the ship, there's these monsters, and what's interesting about the monsters in particular is the monsters themselves aren't necessarily bad creatures, but they do bad things, if that makes sense. The Vervoids are an interesting design, even if, you know, the appearance is something to be mocked. nonetheless, I do like the idea of these like plant people that slowly turn humans into them as well. There's this horrific scene where you see some of the patients and they're slowly being molded by the Vervoids infection. And in my opinion, this is the best of the trial season. Like, this one right here is just a genuinely good story. You know, when I say there's very few Sixth Doctor stories which are genuinely good, this one in particular, in my opinion, is a genuinely good one. This one is actually a decent watch. But of course, with that, there's only one more trial to go, and it's actually the shortest with only 2 episodes. And that's The Ultimate Foe. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed this edition of Did You Know Doctor Who, and I'll see you next time for the finale of the Trial of the Time Lord.